Hello and welcome to the Gratitude and Growth Podcast. I'm your host, Sara Mitich. I am an actor, a yoga instructor, a former ballet dancer, but above all, I am a wildly curious person. So I've spent the past several years researching and studying human behavior, why we do what we do, who and what we innately are, what my purpose is on this planet. And I'm here to share the insights and the tools that curiosity has led me to uncover, in hopes of helping you to navigate the inevitable ups and downs of your own life, and in hopes of inspiring you to become the person that you have always wanted to be. So pull up a chair or go for a walk, hop on that treadmill or go for a drive, and join me as I explore what it is to be a human being in this lifetime. Hello, and welcome back to another episode. I want to talk about reflection and intention today, and why these two things are vital for your own personal development, personal growth. These two things are vital for me. I reflect every single morning, and I set intentions every single morning. And I want to talk about what these two things have done for me and what they've allowed me to do, who they've allowed me to become. So back in episode 1 of this entire podcast, it's called Who I Was. I highly recommend you have a listen to it if you haven't yet. I made 2 lists, right? I made a list of who I was from a very honest, observing place, not judging, not hoping, not wishing, just who I was, how I was showing up in the world, how I was showing up in my relationships, how I was showing up with myself. And then I made another list of who I wanted to be, not from a place of perfectionism, but from a place that I would be proud of. That was the most important time of reflection, or the most important exercise in reflection that I've ever done in my life, because that launched the biggest change in my life, the biggest change in who I was and who I wanted to be, and actually motivated me, scared me, but motivated me to begin implementing actionable ways to change the ways I was showing up that I wasn't proud of, or that I just didn't want to do anymore. Certain behaviors, the way I was talking to myself, a bunch of different things. So, reflection. Reflection is our time to get honest with ourselves, to get real with ourselves, to take stock and inventory of how we are showing up. It's in reflection that we grow the most, because it's in reflection that we allow ourselves to learn from the mistake, from the bad situation, from the relationship that went wrong, from the relationship that tore you apart. It's this moment, it's in the reflection that is your greatest opportunity to evolve and to grow. This moment. If you don't learn anything from what's happened, then what was it worth? All the pain, all the suffering, all the turmoil. For me, it is worth all of it if I'm able to learn something from it and then implement those learnings, implement these changes the next time something like this comes around. I reflect every single morning. That's just what I do. It's part of my journaling. It's just part of my day. And my reflection has actually led to implementing intention. And let me explain that. So I had heard about this word intention for so long, but I never really understood it or lived it in an embodied way, in a day-to-day way, in an actionable way. So I heard the word intention and I was like, okay, my intention is to be wealthy. My intention is to be kind, patient, compassionate, all these things, but I didn't actually know how to implement that in a physical way. And what I started doing a while ago is every morning I would ask myself, who do I want to be today? And this is also where the reflection comes hand in hand, right? So I would take time to reflect on the day before. How did I show up in ways I was proud of? And how did I show up in ways I wasn't proud of? And so this motivated me to actually start living with intention on a day-to-day. And what I mean by that is I would take my calendar for the day look at what meetings I had or look at my to-do list and ask myself, okay, how do I want to show up in these ways? And the point of this isn't to operate from a place of impossible expectations or perfectionism. Doing this day to day builds your mental discipline. It builds your resilience. It builds you actually taking step by step to becoming that person that you want to be. And here's the thing. This work is the work of your life. There is no point of arrival. There is no end goal. So once you can wrap your head around that, it also can become fun. This work doesn't have to be serious and grueling all the time. Yes, mental discipline, absolutely. But it doesn't have to become this like rigid, ruled-filled lifestyle. And I know because I've done that. I dip into that. That's actually something that I dip into a lot. And one of my intentions every single day is that I operate from a place of fun and play. Because at the end of the day, life is supposed to be fun. And this work can get very overwhelming, and you can get tunnel vision when it comes to personal development. But at the end of the day, my question to you is, are you happy? Are you having fun? Are you joyful? Because that is actually our natural steady state. But setting intentions helps root you in showing up in a way that you can say you tried or you're proud of. Right? It's not about nailing all of this every single time. Let me get into specifics because I think it'll help break down. So I ask myself, who do I want to be today? I look at my calendar. Okay, I have this business meeting and it's something that's making me contract. I have resistance to it because I've been building a bit of a negative mindset with it. So I will take that meeting, and at the start of my day, I will set an intention that I will be more positive, I will listen more than I speak, and I will be supportive to this project, to this cause. I will look for the good in it. I will look for the gratitude in every moment that I can. So that's an intention I'll set for that meeting. And then maybe I'll have an intention of, okay, I have to run all these errands today. And I know it's going to be a busy day, but while I run those errands, I'm going to use that time to really be present, to be present in myself, in my day. I'm not going to be on my phone. If there's a long line, I'm not going to scroll through Instagram. I'm going to be present in the grocery store. I'm going to be present at the DMV. I'm going to be present with my parents, with my siblings, with my loved ones, right? Do you see how truly these intentions, very broad spectrum here, but the point is to get specific and also not to overwhelm. Again, as with this work, as with anything in life, it's bit by bit. If you overpromise too much to yourself and to other people, the reality is you're not going to live up to your promises, and then you're breaking that integrity with yourself. So start small. Hey, I'm going to set 2 intentions today, and I'm going to focus on those, and I'm not going to worry about the rest of the things going on. Once you start implementing those changes, then you can start adding more. But setting intentions is one of the most important ways to actually implement these changes that you want to implement on yourself. So a big one for me that honestly I keep coming back to is I have the intention not to complain. Don't complain about this relationship that's struggling. Don't complain to everyone about the coworker that's bothering you. And so if I know I'm going to be in a situation where the opportunity presents itself to complain, I'm going to actively not do it. Or another one that I worked on for many, many months is I really wanted to be a better listener. So I realized back in Summer of Sadness, when all my big discoveries were coming through, that I really didn't listen to people. That I just tried to kind of hijack every conversation and make it about myself. And that came from a place of unworthiness and insecurity. And I love that part of myself, and I've really grown in this way with a lot of people, but there are some people where that insecurity still gets triggered, and I'm working on it because, again, this work never ending. So one thing I would do is I would literally go into conversations and be like, okay, before this conversation or before this meetup with this friend, I'm going to actively work to listen more and speak less. And so during that conversation, was I in my head a lot and less present? Absolutely. I was like, okay, don't talk yet. Let her finish. Let her finish telling her entire story and then comment and then get in and then tell your experience of it. And so again, it's a step-by-step thing, right? So maybe for a few weeks, for a few months, I was in my head. But then it became just a habit. It became a routine. It became part of who I am, who I was. And so now when I listen, I don't have to think about it and I am present with them. But part of the rewiring process is that you're going to get jumbled a little bit. So don't expect that if you set the intention of, I'm going to be a better listener today, that suddenly means, oh, I'm going to be so present and I'm going to be listening and I'm going to be there. Maybe that's the goal. But at first, you're going to have to fight your natural instincts, your programming, your conditioning that you've been doing for 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years, right? So have patience with yourself. But setting that intention in your car for 2 minutes before you get out and have that friend hang, have whatever it is, those 2 minutes make all the difference. And here's the thing. Most of the time, most days, we don't actually take the time, the physical time to set these intentions. And then we end up on autopilot. Suddenly it's 9 p.m. and you're like, where did the day go? And you were on autopilot the whole time. And you were just living in whatever programming, behavioral patterns you're used to. This is why both reflection and intention are vital. And they go hand in hand for me. Because you're able to set the intention if you take enough time to reflect on how you're showing up. Most of the time, we're in a hurry to get somewhere. Most of the time, we're like, boom, boom, this, and then this, and then this. And that is a bigger topic, right? Of what are you in a rush for? There is nowhere to go but here. There is nowhere to be and nothing to do than to live in the present moment. But we're so caught up chasing time, chasing some future that we don't actually take a moment to pause and to breathe, to reflect, and to set an intention. This is how autopilot happens. And then you wake up one day and you're 80 and you're like, where did my life go and did I live it? One of my favorite sayings and discoveries that I had was, sometimes you need to slow down to speed up. You need to slow down and take the time to learn yourself, to learn your behavioral patterns, to learn these different parts of you. And sometimes that means slowing down. But then eventually you will speed up. You will speed up faster than you have any idea of because you took the time to slow down. So give yourself that time in the morning. Give yourself 10, 15 minutes to ask yourself, okay, who do I want to be today? Because it is your choice. How you show up, what happens in your day, how you react to certain news and events is your choice. Everything is your choice. I talk about this a lot. You are not some victim that life is, happening at you. You are responsible and you are accountable for how you show up in your day. You get to decide if you want to be a light for people or if you want to be an energy vampire to people. And look, all of this being said, you're going to set intentions, and sometimes you might not be able to follow through. And that is totally okay. And you might be saying, but Sara, what about mental discipline? What about showing up for yourself? Abso-friggin-lutely. But in this process of rewiring, think about it. You've been living a certain way for 30, 40, 50, 60 years, okay? Your body is used to living a certain way for 30, 40, 50, 60 years. Give yourself some grace and give yourself time. Again, it's so easy to get caught up in this work as well and be like, I want to be better and I'm going to change all these things and I'm going to do it in a week. I'm going to do it in a month. Guys, I've been doing this work steadily every single day for 3 years. Actually, a lot longer than that. I started reading these books on enlightenment and personal development 10 years ago. And the most humbling thing I've ever done and the most grace I've ever given myself is realizing that growth is life. This is why the podcast is called Gratitude and Growth. These two concepts. Gratitude is the key to everything in my life. It is the key to my happiness. It is the key to my personal development. It is the key to my peace and my joy and my freedom and my happiness. And growth. It is never ending. I'm going to keep growing. New opportunities, new challenges will present themselves. And these are the opportunities to grow more, to see if, can I use the tools? Can I use the intention? Can I use the gratitude to navigate these things? And sometimes the truth is, I don't, and I can't. And then I kind of have to start a cycle all over again because that's the growth. You keep building, you keep evolving, you keep changing. So it's not about perfectionism in, I'm setting this intention, and if I don't show up this way, I have failed. No, not at all. You gave it your best shot. That's the most important thing, right? Is you always do your best. Because if you know you've always done your best, then you can be proud of how you showed up. And look, sometimes that best is, hey, I'm having a rough day and I need to be on the couch today. And that's how I'm going to keep my mindset sharp, is watching Sex and the City and eating some popcorn and taking a day to just be me and to honor whatever I'm going through. Your intention doesn't always have to be, I'm going to listen better. I'm not going to be reactive. I'm not going to XYZ. Sometimes your intention, I have this amazing conversation with this actress, Sarah Fisher, on the podcast in season 2. And she worked so much on learning how to give herself a seat at the table, of how to ask confidently for a glass of water from someone, how to take up space in this world. That too is work, right? It's not just trying to fix certain things that we think negatively on ourselves. You can have an intention to be more confident. Today, I'm going to show up in a way where I take up space. And you know what? You might show up and you might hit the other wall with that. That's okay. And then this is where the reflection comes in, right? Okay, I went too far with taking up space and I hijacked every conversation and I made the evening about me. Okay, cool. Next time, I'm going to try to find a middle ground. The most important thing is you gave yourself a shot at it. Again, this work can be playful. It doesn't have to be so serious. We're so hard on ourselves most of the time. At least I know I am. So sometimes I wouldn't show up. I'd set this intention and then all my old programming and habits came out and I left to hang out and I was like, damn it, I did what I said I wouldn't do. And I'd get so hard on myself. And then I was like, you know what? Stop. Stop. It's allowed to be fun. Newsflash, life is allowed to be fun. This work is allowed to be fun. It's our wanting to control, to people please, to be perfect that laces in all those expectations. Let the expectation be that you try your best and you keep showing up for yourself. And also, setting intentions doesn't mean you suppress authenticity. So I've thought about this a lot because authenticity, I also think, is very vital to being who you want to be, to showing up as your highest self. And authenticity is different for everyone. Even people I interview on the podcast, I ask them what authenticity means to them, and people give me different answers. And I think that's so cool. But intention shouldn't mask authenticity. There's a difference between authenticity and your autopilot programming. Let's say your intention is, you're going to have a tough conversation with a loved one. You need to communicate things. You're working on being more communicative. And your intention is to speak clearly, to speak cohesively, and to be honest without being reactive. But then you have the conversation and you're hit with things and your emotions start to rise and your points are getting a bit jumbled and this and that. Authenticity in that moment is expressing those emotions in a responsible way, but expressing those emotions. If you need to cry, if you need to say that you're hurt, that is your authenticity, right? Just because you had the intention to speak clearly and cohesively doesn't mean that suddenly you try to suppress those emotions to speak clearer and more cohesively. Does that make sense? Authenticity and intention can both live simultaneously. In fact, they should. Authenticity should be in everything that you do. Authenticity is so important to our own expression as human beings. This is why, too, it's really good to start small and build from there. Have the intention to have the conversation and allow room for that authenticity to thrive, right? The intention should never be to control. There's a difference between wanting control over a situation and having an intention to act or show up in a different way. Choosing who you want to be every day shouldn't be a tricky way to try to control how everything happens. You don't have control over what happens at you. You have control over how you react to it. And so again, start small, build from there. Take time every single day to reflect. Take time every single day to add intention. And if you aren't living up to it at first, that's okay. The awareness in that reflective time is what counts. Because you know what? One day you will show up. And then you'll show up again. And then you'll show up again. And this is how you rewire those behaviors. This is how you start step by step becoming the person you want to be. And the person you want to be is, again, forever changing, forever evolving. But it's not about perfectionism. It's about authenticity. And so I'm going to wrap it up there. A nice short little episode today. Reflection and intention. How much physical time are you giving yourself to do these two things every day? I guarantee you, if you take the physical time to do both of these things, you will see yourself change. You will see the magnitude of that change so much faster because you're living with intention instead of just letting your day, your week, your month, your life get away from you. All right, let's end it with some gratitude. I'm very grateful for where I live today. I am so grateful for clear blue skies, for the warm sun, for palm trees every single morning. There's something about that brings me peace. So, funny story about manifesting. Ever since I was younger, I always said, I will live somewhere where there's palm trees. I think it's because I grew up in Toronto area, and so palm trees aren't a thing. And so I always associated palm trees with vacation or relaxation, peace. And so I always said that in my head. And I always thought that it would be LA as my final home. And it turns out it's the other coast right now in Florida, but I am so grateful for that dream coming true. That's a beautiful thing. I'm so grateful for that dream coming true because it really does fill my life and my days with so much joy and so much peace. And yeah, I love palm trees. That's a fun fact about me. All right, thank you so much for tuning in today, and we will chat next week. As always, stay grateful and keep growing. Bye for now. Thank you so much for tuning in today. If you liked what you heard, hit that subscribe button and maybe send it to someone who you think might need to hear today's message. And let me know how everything's sitting. Leave me a rating and a review and let me know what's resonating with you. What do you want to hear more of? What's your favorite episode and why? And I hope you find your way back here to another episode, another time, as we keep exploring this beautiful and wild thing that we all call life.